Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from PollutionOnly, and before we do get into today's story, I just want to give you a warning. There is mentions of eating disorders within the story, so if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Your mental health is extremely important, so please look after it. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. So let's crack on with it. The story is titled, "Today I messed up by eating before my SO arrived so that she wouldn't steal my food." The fuck up happened today, but it has been going on for months before I had to spill the beans. For additional context, I will add that my SO and I have been together for a bit more than 6 years, and we have taken the habit of going to the restaurant once a week at the very minimum, once every 2 weeks. We often go to the same restaurants and they are very close to my workplace, so it is no surprise for her that I would already be there or have already ordered a drink before she arrives. Most people like their food, others like other people's food even more, and my SO is one of the latter. When we go to the restaurant, she will order something she likes and I will order something I like too. The issue is that no matter how hard I tried, she cannot resist picking things on my plate before she attacks her own. She does it under the pretense that my food looks good or tastes better than hers. Well, a few months ago, I've seen an image of someone stating that they work at a restaurant and that guy always came 45 minutes early and ordered food, then asked the waiter to set the table as if he had just sat down. When his wife would arrive, he would order the exact same thing as he ordered minutes prior and act as if he was giving it a shot. No need to go into details, but I felt this person was a genius and that I had been blessed with a piece of forbidden knowledge. It was so simple and yet so smart. I couldn't believe I never thought of it. I'd applied what I had seen on our next date and started doing it every time. Fast forward to the present. We were at the restaurant and the waiter brought the tab as usual. I stood up, took it, and went to the counter to pay, but this time my SO followed me. When I arrived and pulled out my card to pay, she caught a glimpse of what was written on the machine, but said nothing at the time. When we were walking to our respective cars, she explained that she thinks they did a mistake and asked me to check the receipt. At this point, I knew it was over and explained what I had been doing for the past months. I spelled everything from the funny image to how it made our weekly outing a much more enjoyable experience for the both of us since I stopped fighting to protect my precious food, and I got to enjoy what I had ordered. She didn't like that I kept it a secret from her, and that I once again tried things I had seen online on our relationship, but ended up laughing after 20 minutes of me panicking and justifying my actions. Edit. A few people suggested that we order a third dish to share. We tried, but the issue is that she doesn't want to keep doing this, as she said that it just doesn't taste the same. It isn't as fun and makes no sense to order a third dish when we both have ours. Please do not think that I went to such an extent as a way to avoid conversation or compromises. We tried different things, but she didn't like any of them, and she got fed up with me bringing it up, so automatically ended up in arguments. With my fuck up though, she realized how far she pushed me, and she said she will try to be more mindful, so we will see how it goes next week. Edit 2. I do not just let her overstep my boundaries. We communicated and tried different things. She most often gets very defensive, and I'm just fed up arguing about food multiple times a month. We'll see how it goes next week though, since she said she'll be more mindful of how much she does it. Edit 3. Please don't be so rude towards her and me. I've sent some insulting comments about our relationship and personalities, but outside of this topic, everything goes well. We have no issues with each other and communication is good. Don't forget that you are judging off a post made on a very specific thing. As for the people pointing out how disrespectful her behavior is, you are right. I think with time and how often we got into arguments about it, I lowered my expectations regarding the way she acts when food is involved in a restaurant is a bit too much. I appreciate your constructive criticism for those who took the time to make some and will straighten my back again like I used to, because it goes both ways. Edit 4. Alright. Everyone, I get what you're saying, and yes, you are right. I have my part of responsibilities in this matter since I allowed her to go as far as she has. I will address the issue again when she comes back home and we'll get to the bottom of it. Update. I made the update in a separate post as it was pretty lengthy and wouldn't fit here. And we will get to that update in just a second. Now, you know, we've already got the trigger warning on this one, which said it's going to discuss eating disorders, and I didn't really see anything as such about it yet, but I'm guessing it's going to go down that path. My initial thoughts as I was reading it is, yeah, you've discussed about letting her step over your boundaries, you communicated and tried different things, but you really have to be firm with those boundaries, I think. Otherwise, what's the alternative to this? Any restaurant you go to, anywhere you go to eat food, you have to turn up beforehand and ask them to order your food and then reset the table afterwards, eat double of what you're going to eat. Not only is that super expensive, it could potentially be really unhealthy depending where you are, and just doesn't sound like a fun way to live, to turn up and have to scoff your food before your partner turns up. And it's never going to be a healthy way to live your relationship, is it? And just one of those situations where a conversation has to be got to the bottom of. There's no other way about it. And I'm all for sharing food in a restaurant, but I usually order a dish because I like it, and I'd get incredibly frustrated, I think, if I found someone picking up my food at the very beginning of it before I've even touched it. But Darlington Lad says next time you go, let her order first, then order the exact same thing. Rukan says, so you're basically eating 1.5 dinners each time if you're ordering extra, and she's eating half of yours plus all of hers. Just eat stuff from her plate every time she takes from yours and parrot her lines back to her if she complains. OP says it depends, but she often orders salads and things of the sort, so she can clearly eat all of that with no issues, yes. As for me, I most often order a steak, hamburger, or things of the sort. What she would pick/take is my side. Fries, wedge potatoes in most cases. I never thought of parroting though, so thanks for the idea if I ever have to resort to this. She said she'd be more mindful, so we'll see how it goes next week. Friend Count Zero says, in quotes, it doesn't taste the same. And it says, dude, this is a control issue with her. It's not about the food. There's no logical train of thought that allows it to be about the food. I don't want to make assumptions, and you seem happy having been together for years. It's a good sign that she was able to laugh about it after a minute, but maybe take a look at her behavior elsewhere and see if there is a pattern. I want it my way because I want it my way is incredibly immature, and while it might be cute and it's something meaningless like food, it could be a real problem. One more comment where OP responds from $20 Nosebleed, who says there's a few issues I have here. The first is boundaries. If she knows it bothers you, why continue to do it? She's a grown adult, she should know better. I saw a few comments here talking about masculinity and whatever. It's not about that, it's about boundaries regardless of gender. I understand wanting to try something your partner ordered, but if it's the same meal she's tried in the past, why does she need to try it again? Better yet, why not get a dish for herself if she liked it when she previously tried it? I also don't agree with the nasty comments regarding your wife. None of us here actually know your marriage intricacies at the end of the day. The other issue I have is, since it sounds like you're going to the same restaurant consistently and she's tried your food before, why does she not get that meal herself if she liked it after previously trying it? Oh, it tastes better when it's not my meal isn't real. It tastes better because in someone else's mind it's essentially the idea of having something you're not supposed to be having and the adrenaline rush that ensues. Even though this isn't a relationship deal breaker, the idea of one person in the relationship not accepting boundaries in the simplest aspect is a yellow flag. If it bothers you this much and you're able to laugh it off as a, I didn't realize it bothered you that much, I'm sorry it won't happen again, moment on top of her being mindful, that's all that matters. If it continues, well, that's something you need to address appropriately. Overall, an issue communicating how you feel about a small bothersome issue might lead to communication barriers regarding larger issues. I know this response was long, but I hope your next dinner is enjoyed by both of you. And of course, OP responded saying I have no idea why she does it and can't stop. All I know is that her parents always share food when they go out, so I guess she thinks that I'm the old one for refusing to share 100% of what I order. My issue is that I'm not the type to pick in someone else's plate, and I cannot bring myself to do so. When she does go on my plate, I feel like my private space has been invaded. Reading the comments on the post, I feel like I might be part of the issue, and maybe should I have kept stopping her no matter how often we would have a fight over it. As you said, some comments were a bit out of line, and this habit of picking on my plate is my only issue in our couple, so I disregarded them, but I appreciate you mentioning it. We go to the same 3 restaurants, so she knows what food tastes like, and I order the same type of food every time. She knows what to expect too. As you said, I think it just stems down to the feeling she gets every time she picks in my plate, and maybe especially when she knows she goes a bit too far in how much she takes. Exactly like I said in other comment strings, if it starts again I will be firmer, and I have been so far, and will not stop until we reach an agreement. It's a small thing, but I grew tired of it with how long it's been going on for. Thanks for the lengthy answer. You raised the right questions and it definitely helped. So OP came in to update the post and they said, I made this into a separate post as I think it would be easier to read than a regular edit or an update on the original. If you're interested in the original post, here is the link. I will also answer some of the questions that were asked repeatedly at the end of this post to avoid the same questions from coming back under this one too. This morning we both sat down at the table while having our breakfast and we opened Pandora's box. I told her how I feel regarding her eating habits, but also how her disregarding my discomfort made me feel too. I brought up some of the points mentioned by some of the constructive comments, since those raised some very interesting points that were worthy of being brought up, and to my surprise, instead of keeping a straight face, she broke down crying. She explained that during her childhood and early teenage years, she grew up in somewhat extreme poverty, and that since her brother was younger than her by 3 years, her parents focused more on feeding him than her. She would often eat less so that he would have more, and it slowly spiraled into an unhealthy habit, even when it wasn't needed still. With time and growing up, she had always been told by everyone that it was normal for her to eat less and that always girls don't need as much food. All of this combined generated what I would call a trauma, and she bottled everything up without ever addressing those seriously. Fast forward to the end of COVID lockdowns. We started going out to restaurants, snacks, and overall enjoying the outside activities that we couldn't participate in because of the restrictions in place here in Belgium. That's where a habit of picking in my food began, and when I started to express that it wasn't something I liked nor enjoyed, it stopped. Slowed down, but ultimately began again after a few months or weeks at a time. Contrary to what most of you thought when reading the initial post, I did stop her and I was firm about it. It only began to be a serious issue 8 to 9 months ago, where she would do it every time we went out, and in larger and larger amounts, leaving me with less than half of what I had initially ordered. Now though, she agreed to see someone specialized in eating disorders and to work on it with me when we go out. We'll take one step at a time and hopefully we'll be able to keep enjoying these moments together. Now for the improvised Q&A. Why don't you just say no? Why didn't you just talk about it? Obi says, do you seriously believe I'd go as far as to eat before she arrives without having ever given her a serious no or discussing the matter? Someone says, no, she can't stop. She's just manipulating you. Obi says, well, I trusted and trust her. The comments made me doubt myself more than her, but with what she told me today, I am filled with relief and guilt for having had doubts. I do think her issue should be seen in the same way as an addiction. It's not something she can properly overcome by herself, and she needs support and help, both of which she will now get. Someone says, so she ate 2 times the amount of food, / I hope you hit the gym, / you waste food and money by not eating everything. Obi says, this one seemed to be pretty big concern for a lot of you, but don't worry friends, I wouldn't order a full meal before she arrived. Most often it would be something I enjoy and that I can eat on my own pace before ordering the real meal with her. There'll be a side, a salad, an appetizer. I'm not wasteful and my job provides enough for me to afford an additional plate when we go out. I wouldn't throw money out the window by taking 3 bites in a dish and sending it back to the kitchen. Someone says I always share with my partner, husband, SO, and I find it insane that you wouldn't want to do the same. Obi says, I do share a lot of things and food included. My issue never was with sharing, but rather with the excessive amount she would take, whether or not I was okay with it. Someone says, I think there may be a cultural difference, and maybe you are from a third world country. Obi says I'm from Belgium, and we are respectively 26 me and 27 her years old. There were many other questions or recurring comments, but for the sake of not making this post too long, I will stop here. Special thanks to $20 Nosebleed, Dogma, and Rustmut for their very insightful and constructive comments that helped me get another perspective. And I really do wish them all the best going forward, and I hope that they do follow through with seeing someone specialized in eating disorders. And this just gave me huge flashbacks to a guy I knew when I was younger, one of my childhood friends, of when I was on another social media platform, which I'm no longer on now. I remember they used to discuss about food poverty when they was younger and how it's affected them growing up. They used to openly talk about it on the social media platform and how it affected them. And I remember them as a family when they were younger, like very, very much on the breadline. And back then we didn't really realize how bad it was, which is really upsetting now to think back on it. I remember a group of us around my house playing on Nintendo 64. I think it's NWO World Tour wrestling game or something like that. And my mum had made us a couple of pizzas, just store-bought pizzas or whatever. She came in and brought them into us, cut them in half, so we all had like half each because there was 4 of us. And at some point in between gaming and eating pizza, one of the slices is getting towards the end of the pizzas. One of the slices, there was some argument between this guy and another of the friends about whose last slice of pizza it was. And the guy who was on Facebook talking about his food trauma before, he had a complete meltdown in that moment, like tears, sobbing, like uncontrollable about this last slice of pizza. And I can recall it being a real what the fuck moment for the rest of us, like, oh geez, have that slice of pizza, don't get upset about it, kind of thing. As sad as it is, when we were all younger then, it really didn't click that there was something wrong there to us when we was younger. I can't recall talking about like mental health issues or eating disorders or anything like that. So when I saw his posts on Facebook, it was really upsetting to see, because it instantly reminded me of that moment and the family as a whole and what they went through. And as always, it's one of the things that I love about reading these stories. It gives me so much insight to behaviors, mental issues. It helps me cast my mind back to my past and see what may have been going on back then. Obviously not in all cases, but because I've told you about the story who threw a Hoover from a top balcony down at us after an argument with her son. And there's absolutely every chance she could have just been an arsehole. But there's also an equal chance that there was a lot going on in her life. She was dealing with an absolute lot. It's not an excuse to throw a Hoover off the top balcony at some children. Absolutely not. But equally, her mental load could have been so extreme. She could have been dealing with so much that she just snapped. That's upsetting. But anyways, I've gone off as absolute usual on this one. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's have another story. And this next story comes from TryComfortable4289 and says, am I the arsehole for not putting my partner's name on the house? So for context, we are both 27 male. They've been together for around 8 years. I work a job that pays $60K a year, and he is unemployed and collects benefits of his parents. He's been unemployed since COVID, when he was fired and never got around to finding a job again. Recently, I've been looking into buying a house. He's been supportive of this and getting us out of the crazy renting market. I managed to find a house I love and talked to him about it. We visited together and decided this is the one. Now it gets to the paperwork and mortgage stuff, and I complete it and pay the deposit. I tell him that it's all gone through and we should be on track to moving in a couple of months. He asked to go through the paperwork and I agree. 3 days later, he confronts me and asks why everything is in my name. I reply because it's my money and I'm the one paying the mortgage. You're not putting any money or effort into the property. He retaliates, saying I'm being financially abusive and says that I can't expect to own everything. Later on, we talk again and we discuss our issues with it. I agreed that in my will, the house is left to him, as well as most of my savings. He says it's not enough, and if we split up, he's left with nothing. It gets heated, and I tell him if he wanted a house, he should have worked for it, not stayed at home and relied on me. I said if he wanted to be on the mortgage, it means he will have to find a job that pays the same as mine. The argument hasn't really resolved itself, and I'm wondering now whether I'm being inconsiderate of him. I really don't know what to do. I'm gonna start with June, who says not the arsehole. Your partner is not a partner. He's a dependent. He has no right to any of your property. In fact, he should be paying you rent if he wants to live in the house. You're responsible for the mortgage, not him. You're responsible for the insurance and repairs and all the things that go with home ownership. He is not. He doesn't get to mooch off your assets beyond the regular mooching that he's already accomplished. I'll kick him to the curb and get on with your life, but that's me. Okie dokie says, so he's not mentally or physically unable to work. He's not going to school. He's not home raising children or caring for an elderly parent. He just chooses not to work because he doesn't want to work. And this isn't anything the two of you agreed on. He just forced it on you by not finding a job. Yeah, someone's committing some financial abuse here, but it's not you. Cranky Bookish says not the arsehole. Your partner has not contributed in any way. You're not financially abusing them. Mooching off others is the absolute opposite of that. If they come up with a portion of the deposit and split the mortgage, then they have a reason to request it. Otherwise, no way. And your will should be your choice. They shouldn't be demanding anything of you. One more comment from GGCC789 who says not the arsehole. You are exactly right to protect yourself. If he wants his name on the house, he needs to contribute. Don't let him manipulate you into putting his name on it. If you split, you'll have to divide the property with him, deal with all that mess, and either buy him out or move. I'm concerned that he's young, apparently able-bodied, not working and living off you, housing and probably other expenses, and his parents. If anyone in your relationship is being financially abused right now, it's you. Is this a situation you're happy to have continue? You do you, but I'd want a partner who puts in a decent effort towards helping to support me and himself. Otherwise, is this a partner or a child/dependent? But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? What about the will? Let us know your thoughts on that as well. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories, your love, your support, your time, not just towards me, but towards each other as well. Down in the comments, I see it every day, and I'm always blown away by your love and support to one another. Please keep it up. You're absolutely amazing for doing so. Am I pointing at the screen while saying this? You're amazing. And I will see you in the next one. Take care. Much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day.